But this topic here is an important one, not only because we live in a toxic world, but there's so many things that we can do to help our pets, and it's also going to help ourselves. But first, I want to start with why. Why is this really, really important? And I want to go back to the beginning. And this was part of my journey with my own pets and my soul pup, Finn, our German Shepherd. And Finn actually, he was a great learning lesson along the way. I'm sure people here who here has a pet that helps them learn and grow, and you've learned a lot of different things about this holistic journey, and maybe you found the holistic journey because of them. But Finn was a big part of this. And I apologize for Instagram. I don't know what's happening with the internet. It's cutting in and out. So can you guys, if you're following along on Facebook and YouTube, can you let me know in the comments that you can hear me okay? So yeah, I'm not sure what's happening, but I can see it popping in and out. So go over to YouTube if you can, in terms of, I'm not sure, internet, right? EMFs are a toxin. So I'm not sure why this is doing this over here. So I apologize. But here's the thing. This is all being recorded. You can definitely, perfect. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Barbara, letting me know. Aaron, over on Facebook, we're all good. Thank you so much for letting me know. So we're going to keep powering through, and this is being recorded. So going back to Finn, our German Shepherd, years back, he started having seizures. And it's really scary. It's one of the worst things to go through with your pets. And we actually diagnosed him with a brain tumor. But one of the things that I didn't realize that is a huge contributing factor was the amount of pesticides and the herbicides that are being used. And especially in the town that we live in, you see all the yellow flags. I've never seen so many yellow flags, and it's awful. It is unbelievable. And I know that it played a huge part of our dog developing cancer. We also had 2 other cats after moving up to this town develop cancer too. Huge, huge issue, right? And so this is definitely something where we need to, I'm going to stop this on Instagram because that's annoying for people. All right. But this is where when we realize what can be contributing to our pets, we can do better. So if you have a pet that might be having some issues with detox, or you know that they are potentially having a sluggish detox pathway, and we're going to talk about what that might look like, this is where you need to pay attention. Detox is not a one and done. It's not a once a year thing. Our bodies and our pets are detoxing every single day. That's key. Every single day, we should be breaking down those toxic things that come in and making it into a less toxic thing and eliminating it from the body. That is the definition of detoxification. But the health industry has turned it into like a January 1st thing, right? Dry January. We do it for a little bit of time and then we're good. And that's not how it works. And we're getting things wrong. So that's what we're going to talk about today because it hits really close to home. And I've gone deep in the rabbit hole of detoxification and the different principles that we need to apply for our pets. So if you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. I'm Dr. Keyti Woodley, the natural pet doctor. And this is our weekly coffee talk with the doc. I'm an integrative holistic veterinarian who's on a mission to make sure that you, as the amazing pet parent that you are, have the tools and the knowledge to feel really confident and supported and empowered that you're on the right path for both your dogs and your cats to help them live a long and healthy life. So how would you know if your pet's detox pathways are blocked? Drop it in the comments below because I'm watching as we go. And this is where, so a lot of people don't realize that some of these symptoms that we're seeing with our pets are actually a sign that the detox pathways aren't working as well as they should. So I want you to think about think about a toilet, right? When we flush the toilet, we want everything going down, right? We don't want things to flow back up and we don't want it overflowing. But if the detox pathways, and there's different phases of detox, are blocked, then what happens is we flush that toilet, but all those toxins, all those waste products, they come up. We see the toilet overflow. We don't want that happening. That's not good. And also too, from a detox perspective and the way it works, the physiology, is if those toxins aren't being processed appropriately and eliminated, they get recirculated back through your pet's body to have to be reprocessed again, or they get stored again. So some of the symptoms that you might see or things on like lab tests, blood work, could be for some reason their liver values are elevated, that ALP, ALT. And if your vet's like, oh, just give them Denamarin and they stay on that for life, it's super safe. Like, yeah, okay, milk thistle and SAMe can be beneficial. But if we don't know why that liver value is elevated, I mean, for one, that's a really expensive supplement. And two, what are the other things that are occurring in the body because that was the check engine light? And we just said, oh, well, this is common. We'll just monitor it. We'll just wait and see. Who here's heard just wait and see, right? So if your pet is having elevated ALP, it's not coming down or it's fluctuating when you're doing blood work, that's a warning sign. We need to listen. Something is aggravating and poking the liver. I'm saying you guys are spot on with the symptoms that can appear if those detox pathways aren't open and working. Skin disease, allergies. Do you know 90% of histamine is processed in the liver? So if the liver's not working as well, if it's congested, we have a lot of toxins that we can't deal with. We can see it, those toxins get pushed back out into the bloodstream rather than going through the normal elimination pathways through the gut and through the kidneys, and it can make your pet itchy. It can also increase inflammation in the body, right? Inflammation blocks detoxification. There's actually an inverse relationship there. So things like ear infections, chewing at the feet, anal gland problems, behavior problems, gut health issues can all be a sign that we need to better support these detox pathways. And this can be a sign of a sluggish detox system. If your pet's on medications, conventional medications, for whatever reason, we need to make sure that we're supporting the liver. We're going to talk about some of the ways like the gut's connected too. Because remember, it's not just one thing. Everything is interconnected. That's the power of using a holistic approach, holistic with a W, looking at the body as a whole ecosystem that we have to protect and support. Very, very, very important. We also have the lymphatic system, right? This is why the physical health pillar I talk so much about is so important. That movement, that walking, that running, that exercising for people lifting weights. We got to get the lymph flow moving. And that's the way that we do it. And it's the same for our pets. That's where those toxins are moving. So if that's not working and it's sluggish and it's stagnant, for one, we see, in people, we see a lot of like the edema, right? Where you get like swollen feet. Who's here has ever had swollen like feet? You sit too long, you go on a plane ride that's too long, and your feet are swollen. That's your lymphatic system not moving the lymph, not draining efficiently and properly. And that can also, that's the toxins. So we can feel worse. Like we get up and we're like, oh, I don't feel good. And you're less likely to move. And it's like creating this circular problem where we don't feel good, we move less, and then we become more toxic because those detox pathways can't work properly. But there's another thing too that we need to become aware of. And this was with my own pets and just becoming more aware of like the different toxins that are out there, because toxins, a lot of times we can't see. They're invisible. And there's two different sources of toxins that we want to look at, because once we know things are out there, right, we can do things to help clear them, prevent them, remove them, treat them, support the body. If we don't know, and we just assume like, you're like, oh, I cleaned up my house, I cleaned up the cleaning products, but we go outside and it's a toxic wasteland because your neighbors are constantly spraying their yards, your city's spraying with like herbicides, pesticides, you live near farmlands, you're drinking unfiltered water. Like, yes, we removed one thing with the cleaning products, but if we're not aware of the other factors that could impair health, we can have inflammation increasing, decreasing detoxification. And here's the thing, symptoms appear further down the spectrum. So there's been a process that's been occurring in the body that's then led to the symptom. So when we see symptoms, we know, okay, this has been going on for a little bit. Like unless, you take hot water, you pour it on your skin, right? And you get red and like a burn, that's an acute thing. But most of the time with these toxins and what we're being exposed to, or we're producing internally, because there's internal sources from just normal cellular metabolism, breakdown products. When we're making ATP and energy, there's going to be reactive oxygen species that are made, cellular health as it's working and building things, as the microbiome is breaking down food, there can be toxins that are produced too internally. So it doesn't all come from outside. And this is why we have to support detox every single day. And it's all connected. Everything that I'll be telling you about, don't worry, will help with supporting these. And it comes back down to those 5 pillars. Everything's connected. Physical health, gut health, nutrition, right? Immune health, your emotional health, and your environmental health. And that's what we're going to be focusing on, is that liver, those detox pathways. So thinking about, okay, looking at every time we pick something up, is this going to help or potentially take me backwards on like the health or on the health spectrum? So the foods that we're feeding, those are external potential sources of toxins. We know that a lot of, and through HRI research, so Health Research Institute has done a lot of urine studies on pets to show that pets on dry kibble diets have really high levels of glyphosate, over 15 times more than humans do. And we know, why is that? Well, when we think about what's in a lot of these processed food diets, we have oats, wheat, legumes. And the way that these crops are processed is that they're sprayed with glyphosate, which is a herbicide, but it's used at the end of harvest because it's also a desiccant. So what it means is it's drying it out, so it fastens harvest, right? So they can process it quicker. Unfortunately, though, the load of glyphosate in those foods is a lot higher, which is why we see glyphosate really, really high when we test the urine of these pets that are on those types of diets. So kibble foods, a great way to remember like which foods are the highest in glyphosate. Owl, oats, wheat, legumes. So your owl foods you want to avoid. And non-GMO can actually be worse because they're still being sprayed. So if it's not listed and labeled as an organic product, we want to avoid those foods. Don't even touch them for yourself or for your pets. So we know that the foods are going to be a potential source of toxins. We want to be looking at the labels, the ingredient list, learning more about how do we improve those diets for our dogs and our cats. The other thing too is looking just cleaning products, laundry, floor products, dishwasher detergent, window sprays, countertop sprays, the water, like when you're using like cleaning products or like the toilet bowl, if you have a dog that drinks out of the toilet bowl, oh my gosh, make sure that we're not using a lot of these toxic cleaning products. Super easy to look at. If you wouldn't want to get it in your mouth, or there's a warning label, like don't get it in your eyes, on your skin, flush out, like if it gets in your mouth, like call the like poison control. Think about your pets. They're lower to the ground. They're walking on these things. They're licking their paws and they're grooming themselves. So they have a higher risk than we do. And we need to be aware of that. And it's one of the easiest things to start changing. And there's so many great natural cleaning products out there that you can use instead. So just start like each week or as you finish your cleaning products. If you're like me and you're like, I don't want to use these anymore, and you just trash everything and replenish with clean products, great. Whatever works for you and your budget, know that just one change adds up to a huge difference for your pet's overall health. So becoming more aware is really, really important and key here. The other thing too, and I challenge you as you go for a walk, is look around your neighbor's yards and look for those yellow flags, like the little toxic flags. I post about them all the time because I hate them. Never seen so many yellow flags in my life since we moved up to Fort Collins. I don't know what it is, people. If you're from Fort Collins watching this, like, don't use this stuff. Like, your yard looks just like mine, and it's so incredible. Like, we need to start educating ourselves that we don't want these things on our lawns. weeds like dandelions, or, pick them, but you can't pick them because people are spraying. So this is really, really important to become aware, because when you start seeing more of those flags, or we were walking through the nature reserve, I remember I think it was spring, and they were spraying like by the waterway. And I'm like, what are you spraying? And they're like, oh, it's just an herbicide. And I'm like, this is a natural waterway. Why are we using these chemicals? But here's the thing. We may not be able to control what everyone else does, but because we're aware of what's going on around us, we can make sure we're wiping our pets' paws off, we're wiping down their bodies, we're reducing their toxic burden. And there's other things I'm going to talk about too that will also make the toxic bucket bigger. So when I talk about a toxic bucket, this is the bucket that can change. Like, this is like, what can we tolerate, right? You probably heard you can't pour from an empty glass, right? So this is where, like, how big is the glass, right? There's all sorts of analogies like that. But I want you to think about your pets, and they all have a toxic bucket. And every day that toxic bucket can change in size. So some days it's really small, meaning that they don't have a lot of resilience against toxins. That could be because maybe there's a lot of stress. Maybe they just had vaccines. Maybe they're on they have an allergy and their immune system's like heightened and irritated. That bucket becomes smaller. They can't take as much. And so if we're putting all these other toxins in, or they're being exposed, like on walks, they're more likely to break or have a symptom or a problem appear. But through food and supporting these detox pathways and opening up elimination, we can make the bucket bigger so they're more resilient. And the thing here that's just amazing and gives me so much hope is that when that bucket is big and it's very resilient, we can have all the toxins coming in, all the heavy metals, and we can handle it because we optimize the systems to take that, recognize it, break it down, turn it into a less toxic substance. And those elimination pathways are open and everything's functioning like it should, so that we can eliminate things. We can get rid of it. That's the beauty of this. This is where the power is. This is where the hope is, right? We need to look at these different pathways. And so this is also where, too, looking at when we talk about different pathways, a lot of people jump to things like milk thistle, and, they rely on one thing. And there's a lot of different nutraceuticals, amino acids, vitamins that are necessary for optimizing different phases of detox. So when we think of detox, we have cellular health levels. So it's going to be things like the liver cell, the mitochondria. Those are your energy powerhouses that are producing ATP. ATP is what gives me energy and gives me like heat in my body and helps keep me alive. Without ATP, we are not here, right? And so that's the cellular health side. That's where like phase 1, phase 2 occur. And this is where a lot of toxins can get stored. We also have a lot of the toxins that are being produced through these cellular metabolic processes. So as our cells are doing what they're supposed to every day, this is where we take a fat soluble toxin, goes in through phase 1. It actually gets activated and turned into a more reactive toxin. So think about if there's something else further downstream that's not working, and we get stuck with more toxic toxins, not good, right? So once again, it's like that toilet. We need to make sure everything's flowing downstream. So we have phase 1, first step, toxins coming in from the bloodstream. They go through the liver. We break it down. Hopefully we have enough glutathione, because a lot of these pathways, we need to cleave and attach glutathione. We create reactive oxygen species. More reactive molecules, heavy metals bypass phase 1 because they're already highly reactive. And then this is where like B vitamins, silymarin or milk thistle are essential. Your sulfur compounds are also helpful for these pathways. And then we go to phase 2. So phase 1, if we have the enzymes to break it down, great. If we don't, body's it's gonna turn into like the liver cell goes, oh, there's a lot here. We're inflamed, we're congested. It's going to pump it back out into the blood. Like it's kind of like the SOS, get it out, get it out. We don't want the liver to get cholestatic. We don't want it to get inflamed. And it pushes it back out into the bloodstream and it recirculates. It can get stored, can also create, itchy skin. So allergies may not be a true allergy. Let me test your way of thinking on this Friday morning. It could be a detox problem. So we need to make sure phase 1 is good. And then we go to phase 2. This is where we turn these fat soluble toxins into water soluble. So then they can go through the gallbladder, they get attached to the bile, they go through the GI tract out through the stool, and hopefully are eliminated out that way. But we also have some water soluble toxins that will go out through the bloodstream and then get filtered out through the kidneys, go out through the urine. So a lot of these pathways and these pumps that are binding and taking them out are also, or transporters would be a better word for that, a transporter to take these toxins, pass them through so that then they can be eliminated. Those kidney detox pathways, the way the kidneys work to filter, also have a lot of these same transporters that the liver does. And so we need to make sure that we're supporting those, we're reducing inflammation. And that phase 2 is where we need things like, glycine, certain amino acids like taurine. And if we're feeding species appropriate diets, we're keeping inflammation low, these pathways will work. But a lot of people also don't realize the elimination pathway, right? So if your pet has constipation issues, this is really common in cats. Think about your constipation issue. Is the stool moving as fast as it should? No, it's going to back up. So what happens when we have a backed up toilet, right? So think about I remember years ago in my family house, we have all these cottonwood trees, right? Grow really, really fast, right? And they have an extensive root structure, and they actually affected the sewage system and the pipes. And so we had all these issues, right? Clogged up toilets. You're like, what the heck, right? And we had to remove the roots and create a new pipeline. We had to get things flowing again. And so if we have constipation, or we have, the motility is not working as well with the GI system, what can happen is those toxins will recirculate from the gut back into the liver through what we call enterohepatic recirculation. So there's actually a portal vein that will bring toxins back up. We don't want to be recirculating toxins, right? That's no good. And especially if we already have a congested liver that's working harder, and we're being exposed to a lot of toxins, and maybe we're missing some certain key vitamins and minerals and nutrients to optimize phase 1 and phase 2. This is where we get the issue of, okay, now we're seeing symptoms because we got this clogged pathway. So this elimination phase, this is where binders are really important, because then we bind to those toxins and eliminate them. But the other piece to this too is making sure all these pathways are optimized. Once again, going back to the pillars of health, physical health, your gut health and nutrition, your immune health, your emotional health, and your environmental health. Because if gut health is off, if we don't have the right microbes, we have dysbiosis, those are producing endotoxins. So things like lipopolysaccharides, those are highly inflammatory to that gut lining. And if we're having toxins, bacteria, food pass through into the bloodstream and overstimulate the immune system, that's another thing the liver has to process. So we have to keep in mind, it's not one thing. It's not one thing or that. It's the combination of what we do that is essential for optimizing these systems. So first, we don't need to work on phase 1, phase 2. We will. A lot of times, the right supplements, the right food products, will be working on all these phases together. But if your pet's elimination pathways, kidney function, if your pet has kidney disease, we need to support those systems first, because it doesn't matter if you're processing toxins through phase 1, phase 2, if that elimination process isn't going to work, because they're just going to recirculate back through. So we think about detox working backwards. Make sure that gut's working, make sure the kidneys are working, make sure that we've got, a binder to bind these toxins that we're then going to help the liver break down and get out. So then it can be bound and removed, so not be recirculated back through. Hopefully that helps clarify a little bit, right? So this is why when we reach for things like milk thistle, we're actually working at that first layer, that cellular health, deeper layer. And what happens? Maybe it's happened to some people here. Let me know in the comments. This is Herxheimer reactions. That's exactly what we see. We start pushing toxins out of the cell, but our elimination pathway and the binders aren't there. So now we've overloaded the body again, and we see a detox reaction. So a lot of times, starting with what we call the macrocosm, those elimination pathways first, helps eliminate the risk or minimizes those Herxheimer or detox reactions. If we're seeing major detox reactions, it's telling us we might have way too much inflammation. Those elimination pathways aren't open, and we may be pushing too hard at the cellular health detox at phase 1 and phase 2. And we need to take a step back and start working our way backwards first. Milk thistle is very strong, and it's something where it can work really, really well, but it also creates a lot of reactions for a lot of pets. I see it. They're like, my dog vomited when I gave it, or they got diarrhea. And I'm like, we need to focus on binders. So binders are things like zeolites. Those are going to be things like clinoptilite, your humic, your fulvic acid, your volcanic ash. That's going to help provide some nutrients. It does have some heavy metal binding properties. They're not super strong though. And so one of the things that I like to do with the elimination phase and binders is use a combination. And this is where, depending on that pet, where you can look at, well, okay, does my dog or cat have serious, like severe symptoms? And you can analyze that. If they're really like sick and they're not feeling well, we go slower and we see what works best for them. So things like bentonite clay, activated charcoal are all going to have different affinities for binding different toxins. So we have like mold toxin. If you have mold toxicity, your pet has mold toxicity. So think about, like, if you have current health problems and you're going through a lot of these like same conditions, your pet most likely also has it. So we want to go slower, and we typically use lower dosages. This is not the time to like, well, we got to just power through it and blast them through it. Lower dosages. So there's a lot of great products out there. And for binders, PolyPets, I use a lot of Standard Process. They have a GI Absorb that also supports gut health. There's a lot of like GI detox from Biocidin, Biotanicals research. But GI detox is a great one that combines different types of binders, so we combine the different toxins. We're not relying on just one thing. So we're helping remove elimination, open those, and then we move to phase 1 and phase 2. And this is where being aware of what are those toxins and the level of detox that's needed and where is my pet from a health perspective is very important. And you know your pet's the best. And so if you're seeing that they're really sensitive, go slow. Reduce your dosages and work your way up. And see, you just might have to have a longer period for them, and that's okay. But we want to make sure all these pathways are working efficiently and effectively because we need them every single day. It's not just one and done. And so supporting the liver, how can we use, I want to give you some real food options because I know we have a lot of overseas people that may not be able to access a lot of the brands that we have here in the States. So this is where looking at, well, what are the foods that are really high in phytonutrients, like the superfoods, because they're going to have the vitamins and the minerals that are going to help support these pathways. Things like blueberries, high in antioxidants. Asparagus has one of the highest sources of glutathione naturally. Glutathione is so essential, and so many of us and our pets are deficient in it. And you can test it for yourself through functional medicine tests. I don't believe we can test for it in pet side, but it's key. It is key to so many processes from a cellular health level, so that microcosm, but also the elimination pathways. So if we can use fresh foods, fantastic. If you can try to get your cats to eat some of these, great, but this is where sometimes using some like supplements or concentrated forms of these might be a little bit easier. But asparagus, thinking about what are B vitamins that I need to get in. B vitamins are key. They're essential. They help provide energy. And it's not just B12. That's given a lot of light because a lot of times it's deficient, especially if we have an imbalance in the gut or our pets are dealing with like IBD, chronic health issues, and we need B vitamins. And what's really nice about B vitamins is they're water soluble. So you're not going to overdose your pets on them. They will actually just pee it out, which is great. It can make the urine more yellow. I don't know if you've ever taken B vitamins. I always just pay attention to my output. I think it's important. Everyone should be aware of what's going on. B vitamins make your urine look more like bright yellow. So just be aware of that. That's a normal thing. But B vitamins. So what can we use? We can use things like nutritional yeast, and a lot of cats love it. Now, nutritional yeast, make sure you're not getting the one that has all the synthetic B vitamins added in. So just read your labels. It should just be nutritional yeast. And there's a lot of great brands. I can't remember the name of the brand we use off the top of my head, but it's definitely something that we want to support. That's supporting phase 1. And then, of course, your milk thistle, so silymarin, they're the same thing. That can help because it's going to support cellular health and also the elimination phase. If you have a very sensitive pet, focus on elimination phase first, because we don't want to push more toxins out of the cell yet until we have that pathway opened up, so we don't create a detox reaction. Some of the other things that you can use would be burdock. Burdock root is very helpful for cleansing the body, supporting. It's very gentle, and it's working on both phase 1 and phase 2. So you could always get burdock root, and you can shave it, like, with a, what is it called? Like, you can, well, it's like grate it. Grate it is what I mean. Shave it, grate it, whatever, grate a little bit on the food. You could always get burdock tea. Also, I have a lot of clients that use teas. I love teas. They're a really easy way to get some of these nutraceuticals into pets, especially dogs and cats. And then, of course, dandelion. This is where dandelion leaves and dandelion roots are doing different things for the detox pathways. So a lot of times we're going to see a little bit more because of the diuretic effect that these can have, is we might see our pets urinate a little bit more. So keep a journal so you know that, okay, well, I added a natural diuretic and I see a little bit more urination. So you know that that was the cause of what you did, and you're not just assuming it's due to either a supplement or something else, and there's actually something going on internally. So that's where a journal is very, very helpful. So this is where add some of this, like get your dandelion leaves and lightly steam them, help make it easier for them to digest, grind them up, blend them, start with a little bit and see what your pets do. They are pretty bitter. So, keep that in mind. A lot of these things are bitter because they're stimulating bile flow, which is so important. That bile is binding to 90% of the toxins. So if you think about like a gallbladder issue, so many pets get gallbladders removed, same with humans. And these principles apply to both humans and pets. And if that gallbladder, if we get sludgy bile and it can't be expressed, think about all those toxins. We've got these bile salts too that are they have detergent properties. They're there to break down and process like fats and bind to those toxins. If they're sitting there and they're not moving through, they're going to start digesting the tissues. And if we have a lot of inflammation, those cell membranes are going to be affected. They're going to become more rigid. We can't produce ATP. Mitochondria is affected. This is like that whole picture. We could go really deep. I won't do that to you today on a Friday morning, but this is where we see, oh, okay, if my pet's vomiting bile, well, okay, we probably have a motility issue. We can have a gut health issue. We might have a dysbiosis present. There's a lot of great functional medicine tests that I've talked about in the past that you can check for on previous coffee talks that we've done in the recordings. And then that way we know, okay, something's off here. Now we know we need to repair this rather than just guessing. But those are some simple ways to really like take a look at the way we detox our pets. It's not just milk thistle. It's looking at the bigger picture. I always say we get so focused on like that one tree. It's like the symptom, or we find a new supplement and we're like, I'm going to start that. And we don't fully understand why we're using something. So I want to challenge you to take a step back. Look at the bigger picture. Don't just get focused on the one tree, right? It's like looking, we miss the forest for the trees. take that step back, look at the bigger picture, look at the entire ecosystem, what's going on outside, what's going on in the house, what are the stress levels, looking at the food and nutrition that we're giving. And maybe it's starting with just one thing. What is one thing we can add as a superfood topper as we're making some changes in the house to help our pets? So keep in mind, those 5 pillars, they seem so basic. And I hear all the time, well, I've done that. And I see people jumping around, trying all these different things, and they're not following the principles at this deeper level. They're not truly realizing those deep interconnections and actually following through with those frameworks on how we actually need to heal the body and what our pets truly need. And this is where we're all on a journey together. We are all just at different places of our journey, and we should always be learning. And that's why I love everyone here. You've taken time out of your day to learn more so you can help your pets and hopefully help yourself too, because a lot of these principles can be applied to your health. And if we can show up stronger, healthier, that energy we provide for our pets will be stronger and healthier, which will resonate at a higher frequency, that healing frequency, and your pets will feel it. It's the emotional health side. It's all connected. So just pick a few things that you can do that don't create more stress and have fun with it and see what your pets do, see how they respond, keep that journal, express gratitude, the blessings of these amazing things and these tools that we have to help our pets so we can help them so much. And Erin, yes, patience. Patience is at the foundation of all of these pillars. I love that. It's a reminder. This is a journey for life. There's going to be lots of lessons along the way, and there will be some mistakes, right? But what do we do with those mistakes? Do we learn from it, or do we beat ourselves up and say, there's nothing else I can do? There is always something that we can try or tweak or adjust, even if it's just shifting our mindset. The mindset is the first place that we have to start with, in believing that we can do this and we can make a difference for our pets. So I hope you found some of those tips helpful. There's also a blog post that we have, the top 5 ways to help detox your pets, at thenaturalpetdoctor.com. I will post it in the comments after this so you can go to that. It kind of breaks it down a bit more. If you're like, I just need some help and guidance and support, or you just want to go even deeper and learn more about how all these pillars are interconnected, schedule a call to learn more about our Healthy Holistic Pet for Life Blueprint. It's a lifetime support mentorship program where I help guide you. There's a self-paced educational program that actually goes through these different phases of detox and what you need to do to implement and how to use these supplements and food therapy to help heal your pets. We do weekly Q&As. We have an amazing community. I see a lot of our community members here in the comments. They are truly a family to me, and they show up every day. They put the time in and they get the results because of it. And also too, it's a great place to remind yourself, like, okay, we're all on this journey together. Let's have some patience. Let's express some gratitude, and let's try it and tweak other things if we need to. And I guide you and support you so you don't have to be alone on this process. And you get to be in just a freaking amazing community that's so supportive and just incredible. They light up my life every single day. I just love them so much. So there's a link to set up a call if you want to learn more. There's also a free masterclass that takes you through how to identify those root imbalances. So definitely check it out. And if it's something that you're feeling you're resonating with, that you're like, I'm ready to take the action, do more, and to really show up for myself and my pets this year, schedule a call, because I'd love to connect with you and see if this is potentially that next step for what you've been looking for. So once again, appreciate all of you. We will be back next Friday for our weekly coffee talk with the doc. I'm Dr. Keytie Woodley, the Natural Pet Doctor. Take care, everyone.